Today, we're joined by Thomas Carnevale, founder and CEO of Umbrella Security Systems out of the Chicago area. Thomas is a founder with 25 years in the security industry who started in a basement in Plainfield, Illinois, and patented technology that solved two fundamental flaws in video surveillance: blind spots and poor image resolution. That technology scaled into Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and transit systems across multiple continents. And if you're in Chicago, there's a good chance he's been seen by a camera he built. The same system he deployed across the Chicago Transit Authority rail fleet was still capturing critical incidents on the Blue Line just a few months ago. After over a decade building that technology, he pivoted to found Umbrella Security Systems, where he brings that same engineering rigor directly to end users. Thomas, welcome.
Anthony, it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Mhm. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And you've done something really interesting with the technology you built and just developed over it. So for for people who aren't that familiar, what I guess give a quick summary of your current role at Umbrella Security
Sure.
Systems and like what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Umbrella Security is a engineering design consultant that designs, builds, installs, services, and supports end users of security infrastructure. So, whenever you walk into a public building, there's going to maybe be a security guard, maybe be a check-in area, and we install the security infrastructure. 20 years ago, when I told folks at events say, "Hey, I'm in the security industry," they would think that I'm a security guard. 10 years ago, they would always say, "Hey." When I say I'm in security, oh, you're a cybersecurity hacker. I'm none of those things. So every building, every public place, every private and public piece of infrastructure needs intelligence. It needs security infrastructure, anything from AI video surveillance cameras, electronic access control, so you can have very specific access to specific doors and locations in your business. As well as intrusion alarm business systems that can identify and even do interactive remote video monitoring to deter intrusions over time.
I see.
Yeah.
So so when you first started out, how difficult was it getting like all of that into place? Did you find a team and the right people, or like did you just notice the issue and go from there?
Well, it really helps to have a lot of passion. First and foremost, I this isn't my first business in the security industry, so I already had a really deep love and passion for helping kids stay safe in school, for an example, helping people commute in a more safer environment to work, and helping private businesses control operations and improve operations like a manufacturing plant or a food plant, food manufacturing distribution center. These are really vital parts to our society. Security threats are kind of everywhere today. And so I just enjoy problem solving first and foremost. And that kind of the business comes secondary. Once you have that passion and you have the kind of the knowledge and the that's deep and wide, you can build the business after that.
Agreed. And yeah, there's a lot of problem solving required for businesses and to really make that impact happen. But let's go to your origin story here because it's quite interesting.
Sure.
So when you first started out, right, back to that problem solving, you
Mhm.
identified that flaw with fisheye surveillance cameras,
Yeah.
that issue that made it the footage difficult to use and see. So you wrote the algorithm to correct that and enable, that motion to be able to move and zoom from the camera footage, right? So when did you realize that problem was solvable and that you were the one to solve it?
Good question. So, when I really got the passion for starting my business in the security industry after 9/11. To be quite frank, I saw the devastation it happened on our in our country. I remember it still to this day very vividly. It took years for the shell shock of that to kind of start to fade. And so that was kind of, I would say, my baseline of wanting to solve a problem, or wanted to assist in some way in solving a problem. And then I had this other part of my upbringing. My father was a software engineer, and he actually developed a software and hardware laser system that shoots through a diamond, and it creates a unique identification code for every single diamond, so that it can be categorized, and if it's stolen or lost, it can be verified. He sold that company to the FBI in 1984, when I was four years old.
Wow.
And outside of baseball practice and stuff like that I did with my dad, he also kind of leaned me into the tech world. And so I really got inspired to do a little bit of development in that area, and I learned some software engineering. And in looking at all of the cameras, back then when I was late teenager, early 20s, everything was grainy. And then always the camera, when something happens on the right, the camera's always pointed on the left. And so I got inspired with the optics of the technology, and then wanted to make this a usable solution for mass markets in the commercial world. So I got started, and step by step kind of integrated it and made it part of the industry.
Wow. That's incredible. So a lot from your father and the tech experience, and you just learned a lot of technology, and then you saw that and you wanted to go all in, especially at the time where I guess the internet was still relatively young,
It sure
and
was. Yep,
you
early
went with
two
that
thousands,
specifically.
the early 2000s. Like nowadays, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur and a business owner, and it's kind of the cool, fashionable thing to do. When I started a business in the early 2000s, it was not at all that culture. In fact, it was in some ways the opposite. When I would tell other adults or other people or friends, hey, I want to start a business and be an entrepreneur. They thought I was having an identity crisis of some sorts, and didn't really have a clear direction, because you were supposed to go to you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to go after high school, you're supposed to go to college, then you're supposed to get a job. And I didn't. I took the road a little bit less traveled at the time. So
Mhm. Well, that's good. I really admire that, taking a bet on yourself and just following your own path, because
yeah,
that's really how you live your own life. And I think what a lot of people have now about how it's cool to be a business owner is maybe what they see about a lifestyle, but really, being a business owner is hard. You have to deal with a lot of problems and stress and all of that. But if you're passionate about solving that problem, and then then you can work through it. And
sure.
every big person had started with an idea, just saying like, I want to be a business owner and not follow the traditional path, because they saw something that could actually be solved.
I agree. This is obviously a topic of conversation that comes up a lot in my world, and people ask me questions and say, "Hey, what do you think about starting a business?" And I don't necessarily give them always the answer that they want to hear. I say maybe don't start a business. It's not for the faint of heart. It is a lot of failure, a lot of repeated failure, and a lot of adjusting. And some people aren't able to continue to have that positivity and optimism, where all of the logic shows that this is maybe not going to be successful. Maybe this isn't going to work out. Hey, maybe I've failed 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row. What are the odds of that ninth time being any different? And it takes a different. It certainly can be learned. I don't believe that it's in the DNA kind of thing. I don't believe that. It certainly can be learned, but it takes a lot of perseverance to be able to lead an entrepreneurial life. It's not all Instagram highlights, if you know what I mean.
Mhm. Absolutely. Not to mention back then it must have been like harder. There were a lot less resources and tools. So
That's right.
how did you navigate trying to deal with that when you were like first starting out? Especially since I mean you're coming from like a software kind of background, right? It's
Yep.
not like you were bit already in business and then you kind of then play with it over here, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I had to really think through all of the stages of building a product, bringing it to market, getting market adoption, and going through the entire process of that. And I think it's very what I don't appreciate so much of the advice that I hear on the internet or social media from time to time these days is that oh, hire the best person for that. Get around to funding to start your business because everyone wants to help you and give you, plethora of advice, but most of it is bad. And the reality is if you want to build a business, you have to in some ways be able to do everything. You have to bring the product to market, you have to accept the feedback from the customers and make things work and prove the model yourself, and then you can train the team as you're expanding and the market accepts your solution, service, or product. And so it's not even you look at the entrepreneurs and who are engineers, they became more than an engineer. They became salespeople. They became speakers. They became leaders. Maybe first they were engineer, but you have to continue to evolve if you really want to bring your business to market in a meaningful way.
Agreed. You definitely, there's a lot of hats you have to wear, especially initially when you're not like a person who has money who can hire everyone. Not
That's
to
right.
mention you have to have that inner understanding first before you can just say, here, do this, and then you're not even
Yep.
sure what they're going to accomplish if you don't even have the vision yourself.
I actually encourage whenever I talk with entrepreneurs or work with them, I encourage them to take no money up front. Get the model proven first. Your time is not worth anything. Okay. Your time is not worth anything unless the market tells you it's worth something. So prove the product, prove the market, prove the solution, prove the strategy, and then start to expand from there. I think if you need, I've said this many times. If you need funding to start a business, you are in the wrong business. I really believe that.
Agreed. Especially as a beginner, you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
Hmm.
And I think that's even more true in today's world. I mean, like you mentioned, like how it was developing software, 20 years ago. I mean, growing up in this world where almost every single answer that you could ever think of is at your fingertips today. It's easier than ever before. Um, but the problem is, even when we're using, tools like AI, you get this very lazy mentality from people who are using AI and think that it's going to do everything for you. You have to
Hmm.
ask the right questions. You have to intimately know the details of what you're asking, or else you're going to get what? Generic responses. Okay, you're
Hmm.
going to get a ping pong generic response to solving a problem when you need to really understand that. So, whatever problem you're trying to solve as an entrepreneur, you are mandated to know it intimately, know it at a code level.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's like they say, a car is only as good as the person who's driving, and it's the same with
Right.
AI or any other tool that you
Yep.
can handle. Mhm. So there's something you mentioned that really stayed with me. You said you had 13,000 cameras in the Chicago Transit Authority, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it could be even more now, or no.
I'm not sure. Yeah, we did a multi-year deployment about 10 years ago, and the cameras were really successful because it reduced the amount of cabling and engineering that each rail car needed to do. It reduced the amount of cameras they needed to implement, and it actually reduced blind spots within these cabs. So when people get up and they move around, all of that is captured by a 180 by 360-degree spherical fisheye 360 camera. So,
I see. So with all those cameras all over the transit, and of course in other places as well, but
yeah.
how does it feel knowing that it's still doing its job after all these years and capturing like real high stake moments? And, how does that kind of long-term durability inform how you design and build systems at Umbrella Systems today?
I don't really I try not to hang my hat on that. It's a really great thing. But the reality is, it doesn't matter who you are, what business you're in. Your next thing is the most important thing. Your next, where your energy is focused moving forward. I've seen way too often people who have success in their past like rely on it. I don't want to be known for that. I want to be known, as a really good dad, a good husband, and someone that helped people in life and in business, and that is my modus operandi. For who I am. That's what I'm going to be most proud of is how I dealt with difficult situations and kindness and love and compassion versus resentment and anger. I think those are the elements of being a human being and in this world that really people should focus more on than achievements and things of that nature. It's my opinion.
I agree. I like that because it's like they say, people don't remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel. So, I
Right.
mean, just as an individual, there's a lot you can do for like how you're impacting someone else. So,
Sure.
those are good principles to live by.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. So, after 14 plus years at Century 360, you decide to step away from that and then go directly to end users through Umbrella Systems. So, what was, I guess, why the move there?
Sure.
What gap did you see?
So with Century 360, we developed software, hardware. So we developed a product, okay? And so
Mhm.
we chose a channel strategy for that product. And our channel, it was to sell our products through, installers, system integrators of secured commercial security systems. And so I traveled all over the world. We had an office in Istanbul, we had an office in Dubai. I met with integrators in South Africa. I remember Dean and Billy that we worked with in South Africa, doing some really neat projects down there, government projects. I worked in the UK quite a bit and did some really great projects with a company called Annixter. Even in Canada, I had a distributor. 20 years later, I remember all of their names. A friend of mine by the name of Mike Polo, who was our Canadian distributor. And then we had, integrators all over the country. And I learned so much from them because we were never the total solution. We were a part of the overall security infrastructure that they would use. And so, man, I learned a lot about access control, for example, and intrusion alarms. And I'm a tech kind of geek at heart, and I just really love the technology and how it all works together. And then I also, so I saw a lot of those positive things and how really great integrators serve their customers. But I also saw the other part of it too. I saw a little bit behind the curtain, and there were some companies that didn't take good care of some of their customers, and you really didn't invest in knowledge and relied upon manufacturers for all of their tech support. And I had that bug that says, in auditing all of my successes, working with other companies like Microsoft Retail, Lowe's, Home Depot, and others, I just knew that I could work with end users and bring all of this system and service together in a much more kind of elegant, go-to-market strategy. And so I really had a burning passion to compete with these customers that I had learned good and bad things from for a decade and a half, and I thought I could do it better, like every other entrepreneur says. And in hindsight, now it's been almost 10 years of doing Umbrella. I certainly went into it with a little bit too much arrogance. I didn't, because just on the outside looking in, once you're on the inside, you kind of know more of what it takes. And so we had to, we had to adapt and get better and learn more about the details. And that has but taking care of the customer and really making sure their needs, their wants, and their people are safe and secure is, has been a really solid staple. The company motto has kind of always been this way, but last year we doubled revenue, we doubled headcount, and so we had a really great year last year. But at the kind of end of the year, I kind of started to formulate what our company is all about. And it's this very simple motto. We reject the appearance of good because we only want the real thing. So we're not in the business of just doing things to look good. We're in the business of solving real problems and measuring that success. Okay. So like with anything, there's still a lot of learning to do and getting better at her. But I'm really proud of where we've come from. So
Absolutely. And congrats on your success last year, and looking forward to more this year, of course.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess what's something you learned from, switching from that side, from the software, over to becoming the integrator
Yeah.
in all those companies?
I yeah, a big thing that I learned was not all, in the commercial security world, it's such a different, the search volume on Google is like when people look up security cameras, they're going to find like Google Nest, or they're going to find Ring cameras and kind of think, oh, that's the market for security surveillance. And it's really not. That's the consumer centric products.
Right.
And there's this whole other world of commercial security infrastructure that are not wireless, that are hardwired, power over Ethernet, and it is part of the building infrastructure for a reason. And like even 2 weeks ago, I had a really great talk with a group of 30 building engineers, and they're responsible for HVAC, lighting, and oftentimes security infrastructure, and making all of these things. You hear the buzzword of smart buildings, right? Smart technology. Well, not every platform and hardware device work together. There's not an API and an SDK integration for everything and everyone. And even if they do say that there is, that doesn't mean it works the way you're expecting it to. And
Right.
so systems, still today in 2026 have to be thought through. When you're integrating building automation, when you're integrating surveillance cameras and card access control, you really now today in my summation, it's really about making security technologies do more than just being a security technology. We want to know when to turn the lights down, what our head count is over time, seeing if it's a threat, or using it as a customer service tool as well. So using, I've said this also before, with this AI term is just so overused and improperly used. When I got into the commercial video surveillance industry, it was called it was called machine vision learning, and then the term then became video analytics, and now everyone's saying AI video surveillance, right? And so but this should be, these are tools and databases that can work together so that you can produce information that will help you run your business more efficiently. That's really a big component of what a systems integrator and the security world should be focused on.
Absolutely. So you said recently last year you were looking at your company and you were just thinking about I guess where you stand and where you're going, right? Your vision.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for 2026, what does that look like? What are you most excited for this year?
We're adding our team. We're going to be doing that more throughout the year. We have a pretty clear focus. We're not necessarily trying to be everything to everybody. We have about 4 or 5 different vertical markets we're really growing strength in, and continuing to be a strong resource, and also investing in our local communities as well. With that is a huge priority for us. But when I first started the business, we would pretty much do any kind of security system for a gas station or a 7-Eleven or something like that. Now we're really focused on, private schools, public schools, places of worship, because these are a huge threat in today's society. Government facilities is another one. So public works departments, courthouses, things of that nature. Police departments is another vertical market for us, and then manufacturing, both industrial, and food. We're starting to do some really positive rollouts with national food distribution and manufacturers, and some industrial distributors as well, because they have to have continuity. There's the population increases. There's more people in this world now. There's more places that need to be built, and there's more fulfillment chains that need to happen. And you don't want to go about it by having systems that are proprietary, and not having that continuity of integration between a supply chain situation, for example.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you're going into the places, I guess, where people shouldn't have to be worried, like schools or places of
Right.
worship, like
Yeah.
those are really important. And also other areas where like there could be a lot of accidents that could happen and other stuff
Right.
like industrial and the food places, those things as well. So
Yeah.
that's really great.
You have to you start with a security plan. And so in a school environment, there's a lot of different cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. So there's the superintendent, there's maybe a director of security, there's a director of IT, there's a director of buildings and grounds. And oftentimes with these school districts, it's such a fragmented part of the situation. Maybe one department will work on this part of security, another department will work on that part of security, whereas really there needs to be a top-down consensus with integration and strategy of how these systems are going to work. From implementing weapons detection systems, now there's capabilities. It's not just metal detectors anymore. And having visual panic alarms and things of that nature within these places of worship and schools is a huge priority in today's world.
Agreed. So I'd say this has been a really great chat.
Thank
So
you.
I guess before we go, and I wish we had more time, but before we go, where can people find you or listen to you if you do
Yeah.
any content,
Yeah.
or I guess if they want to work with you?
Sure. Umbrellasecurity.com is the first and foremost place for us. Pretty simple, easy domain to remember. We also have a YouTube channel, and a lot of my talks and analysis. From time to time, I'm asked to kind of give commentary on security events that happen in our country. All of that content is on umbrellasecurity.com, and yeah, we really love what we do, and I think that is a big part of the fuel that equates to however you choose to define success.
Mhm. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Thomas.
Great, thank
And
you, Anthony. Appreciate you.
of course, yeah, thank you. And we'll see you next time, hopefully. And
Awesome,
yeah,
for sure. We'll do it again.
yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.